On WREC. Kurt Power with Quest Trust Company was on real estate mortgage shop this past Saturday. We got calls. I mean, this is an awesome topic with a great call to action today. Kurt Power is a certified IRA specialist and in charge of business development over at Quest Trust Company. It's the largest self-directed IRA custodian in Texas, and it is the fastest growing custodian service for self-directed IRAs in the country right now. And so Kurt has had a lot of experience in investing and taking care of people's money, and he studies the self-directed IRA for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He hails from Houston, Texas, and he speaks both from his experience at Quest as well as his personal experience in investing. So at this time, I would like to introduce to Talk Shop Kurt Power of Quest Trust Company. Kurt, take it away.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Joe, I echo those sentiments. I had a great time speaking with you on the radio. Typically speaking, when we talk about IRAs, this can be a subject that most people either check out or take a nap. But I would highly encourage everybody to, if you're a relatively new investor, open your ears and listen to the information. If you're an experienced investor, open your ears, listen to the information, because I'm going to key in on a couple of different things today, the Roth IRA among them, but also just some different ways of thinking about money for everyday expenses as part of your overall understanding money strategy. So while this is IRA heavy, it goes in tandem with a very diverse plan already of how are you going to become wealthy over time. It's more than just IRA investments. It's more than just your personal investments with your liquid funds. It's an overall mindset of how to understand money and maybe spend a little bit differently than maybe we already are. So let me share my screen so I can get my PowerPoint for you. Do you guys see that right now? Do you guys see the screen?
We do, Kurt.
Awesome. Here,
Kurt, I am seeing it in presentation mode. I see it
here. Let me go.
I've muted the others because there's a lot of background noise at the.
How about
now? Nope. Now we see your email, sir.
Interesting. Let's do this. Give me a minute here, guys.
There we go. Perfect.
All right,
well, it's still seeing the slides, but it's better than it was. That's good, sir.
I'll take better than it was. All right. All right, guys. So I'm Kurt Power, certified IRA specialist with Quest Trust Company. I'm also the director of business development at Quest. So I spend a lot of time educating Americans all over the United States on the benefits of a self-directed IRA, while also cultivating business-to-business relationships across the United States. So very happy to be talking to you guys today. Memphis and Tennessee in general is a big focal point for me as I continue to grow Quest Trust Company. So I don't want this to just kind of be an advertisement for Quest. I'd rather you guys look at this as just part of your overall strategy of how you approach your real estate investments now and going forward. And if you choose to do business with Quest Trust Company, that's an added bonus for me. But the most important thing is you take this and you implement it into what your strategy already is. Before we dive into that, guys, a little disclaimer here. Myself and anybody at Quest Trust Company, we don't provide any tax, legal, or investment advice. We don't endorse any products, services, or investments of any kind. We encourage our clients to do their own due diligence. When you're the self-directed IRA account holder, you're the fiduciary to the account. So you've got to do your due diligence on the deal. I would also encourage you to do due diligence on the people that are going to be involved in that investment. And that would include consulting with your attorneys, CPAs, tax advisors, your trusted circle of people when you're vetting deals, to give you that reassurance that what you're about to enter into from an investment point of view fits your risk profile and you feel like it's going to be a good investment for you. So Who is Quest Trust Company? Quest Trust Company, as was mentioned, we're the largest self-directed IRA custodian in Texas with over 22,000 active investor clients. We are the fastest growing IRA custodian in the entire country. We currently hold over $2 billion in assets under administrations. We have over 100 employees at the headquarters in Houston, where I am. Also have offices in Austin and Dallas, Texas. So even though we're a Texas-born company, we operate in Texas, we service clients across the United States. But over a third of our employees hold the designation as a certified IRA specialist. That means a lot of us, myself included, have taken exams with the American Division of Banking, and we have a certain accreditation levels. That basically means we are experts when it comes to IRAs. You know, we're not CPAs with the broad knowledge. We have expert knowledge in IRAs as it relates to the specific tax codes. This number gets a lot of attention from people. We currently have 350 million, give or take, dollars of undirected cash. What this means is we have clients that have not put their money to work yet. So $350 million just sitting there. So kind of a theme that you want to think about, there's trillions of dollars in retirement accounts, and there's millions of dollars at every networking event that you go to. The majority of that money is housed in people's retirement accounts. So as you'll learn with this, it's more than just directing your IRA to an investment. You can potentially find your own private money resource via using OPI, other people's IRAs. So what is a self-directed IRA? Why should you have one? Here's a newsflash, guys. There is no such thing as a self-directed IRA. It's not a type of IRA at all. It's just a marketing term. The IRA at Quest is the exact same IRA at Edward Jones, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Merrill Lynch, name the custodian. The IRA is exactly the same. No legal distinction. They follow the same IRS guidelines. But self-directed does mean what it says. Again, you're the fiduciary to your investments, so you're able to pick the investments that you would like to place your capital in. So the difference between an IRA at Quest and an IRA at Edward Jones is at Edward Jones, it's focused on the public side, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, whereas custodians like Quest, we're focused in private assets. And for Quest, it's real estate, notes, and private placements. So the benefits are diversification. That's the biggest one we think about. The gentleman, Mr. Keller, mentioned potential market volatility. And I would say that a great hedge against market volatility, or a way to navigate market volatility, is by being diversified. By not having all of your funds in one asset class or another, ideally you have both. And with a self-directed IRA, you're able to have the best of both worlds. You're able to have your stocks, bonds, mutual funds performing for you. You're also able to buy tangible assets like real estate, or loan your money to borrowers and potentially get above average returns. So though I am a self-directed IRA specialist, I do believe in the value of diversification. I think you should have both, simply for the reason that it will help mitigate your market volatility. Tax savings are the ones that jumps out at most people when they think about an IRA, the incentive of potentially getting a tax deduction on your contributions, but also in the way that the money grows in the account. Certain accounts will grow what's called tax deferred, where we're deferring that taxation until we reach retirement age and we begin taking distributions. That will be when we pay taxes. Or in the case of a Roth IRA, you're not going to get a deduction on your contribution, but those earnings are going to grow completely 100% tax-free and will become tax-free in the form of distributions when you reach the age of retirement and have the account open for 5 tax years. This one is the most important to me. I think having control, having say, having absolute and total control of your investments. With an IRA at a company like a Quest, you have the opportunity to invest in what you know best. So if you're a fix and flipper, if you're a wholesaler, if you're a buy and hold guy, if you like to invest in land, if you like to loan your money, if you like to invest in syndications, continue to do that, but maybe do a couple deals a year inside of the IRA and reap those tax benefits and diversification by doing so. And lastly, social investing. This gets overlooked, but I think it's very important. When we're investing with our IRAs, or really our dollars period, whether it's our personal funds or our retirement funds, we have the opportunity to improve our neighborhoods. We also are giving jobs to local contractors, local builders, local landscapers. So we're not just improving the neighborhood by taking that eyesore property and making it into something beautiful and something that we like to look at. We're also giving families a second chance at having a roof over the head, while also employing those local people in our neighborhood and in our community. At Quest, we have 7 types of accounts that can be self-directed, and we break them down into 3 categories. We have our personal plans, employer plans, And lastly, our specialty plans. Personal plans are the ones that most are familiar with, our traditional and our Roth IRA. Traditional is really by far the most popular. When I say popular, the one we see the most because of the way it's funded. If I have an IRA at Fidelity, it's 9 times out of 10 going to be a pre-tax account invested in the stock market. Or if I left my employer and I have that old 401k, more than likely it's all pre-tax money that I roll over to the traditional IRA. And again, when I invest these funds, they're growing what is called tax deferred. Not paying taxes now, today, when I'm getting those earnings, I'm deferring it to when I'm 59 and a half years of age and I can take distributions. The Roth IRA, though, guys, I want to single this one out because this is the one where if I do this investment in a traditional IRA, I'm simply deferring taxes. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is going to come a time when that taxation is due, whether I begin taking distributions at 59 and a half, or I wait until I'm 72 and I start to have required minimum distributions where the government says, hey, you got a big bucket of money that hasn't been taxed yet. You have to start taking a minimum amount out until the day you die. No such thing exists with the Roth IRA. I paid taxes on my initial contribution, or when I converted from traditional to Roth, I paid taxes then. All those monies that are now in my Roth IRA, when I invest, those earnings now and in the future are 100% tax-free. When I take distributions at 59 and a half years of age, it is tax-free. I've already paid taxes. So I'm paying the taxes up front on that small amount so that I can get the big benefit down the road of tax-free wealth, not just for me, but for my heirs, my beneficiaries. Employer plans, these are for people who are self-employed. Maybe they don't have that traditional job with a 401k or another comparable qualified retirement plan. SEP IRA, Simple IRA, and the solo 401k. The SEP and Simple function, for all intents and purposes, just like a traditional IRA. They are pre-tax accounts with tax-deferred growth. The benefit of these accounts, though, again, if you're self-employed, is you can make much, much larger contribution limits on an annual basis than you could to a traditional IRA. Lastly, our solo 401k, this is arguably the most powerful account in existence. It is also potentially the most dangerous account in existence because there is no custodial oversight of this type of account. You get a checkbook with the account, you have a bank account, you can do loans to yourself. So it's very easy potentially for an individual to do a prohibited transaction with a solo 401k, especially without custodial oversight. However, it's undeniable how powerful this account is. So if you are self-employed, we should definitely talk about these types of accounts because you don't want to be sitting on the sidelines thinking you can't have an IRA when one of these could be the vehicle that makes the most sense for you. Lastly is our specialty plans. These are called specialty plans because they are special plans for special purposes, the health savings account and the Coverdell education savings account. The health savings account is our favorite account. We tout this account because it truly is the best of both worlds in that you can get a tax deduction on the contribution and you can turn around and use those monies completely tax-free for qualified medical expenses. Things like eye doctor visits, dental visits, surgeries, prescription medications, even alternative treatments like chiropractic and acupuncture can all be used with after-tax dollars. So as I alluded to in the beginning, it's great to invest your IRA and reap those tax benefits. But when we talk about an overall understanding money and an overall strategy of how we build our wealth, paying for those everyday medical expenses with tax-free money versus taxable money will also help us become that much further ahead as we look at our overall wealth planning portfolio. A Coverdell education savings account, this can be used for children from the time they are born until the time they turn 18 in terms of you can fund the account from the time they're born to the time they turn 18. They can use this account until they're age 30 for school right now, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, graduate school, college, post-grad. You can use the monies in this for things that are qualified education expenses, tuition, room and board, laptops, etc. Also, one of our biggest expenses is our Wi-Fi. You can potentially pay for your Wi-Fi completely tax-free with the Coverdell education account. And why that is if you have a child or you're a student yourself and you're doing research projects, etc., using the internet, that now becomes a qualified education expense. So you can use a Coverdell education savings account with tax-free dollars to potentially pay for Wi-Fi expenses. These accounts can all be self-directed individually, or better yet, they can be partnered together. They can partner with another person's IRA. They can partner with another individual. Your IRA is just an entity, so it has its very own name: Quest Trust Company, FBO, your first and last name, IRA, the account number. If we're partnering it, again, either with an IRA or a person, we're still going to have my IRA's name and my partner's name, but we're also going to see as to an undivided interest. Whatever that split is, 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, whatever that looks like, that will be, when we look at the title, if we look at the investment, this is the way it would be titled: your IRA as to an undivided interest, and your partner as to an undivided of that interest as well. There are some restrictions when we talk about IRAs. We're talking about people, transaction, and investment restrictions, and this comes from the IRS. These are not Quest policies. Disqualified persons is who we're talking about with the people restrictions on IRAs. These are persons who cannot benefit from the IRA, nor can they enter into transactions with the IRA or any other qualified retirement plan. So we make it very simple when we talk about who's disqualified. The first person who's disqualified from an IRA is you, the account holder. We have you, and we have Mr. or Mrs. IRA over here. You're a taxable entity. The IRA is a tax exempt entity. You have thoughts, feelings, emotions, a job, a credit score. The entity doesn't have thoughts, feelings, friends, a credit score, income. It's just that entity. It's a hollow shell. So I cannot enter into transactions with my IRA. And as the IRS want to do, they make this very simple on us. This is a very easy descriptor of who the other disqualified persons are. Guys, we as IRA specialists know this inside and out. We don't expect clients to know this off the top of their head about the percentages of ownership, the percentage of income that somebody makes with their own company. We make it very easy, though, for you to understand who disqualified persons are. It is you, your spouse, your lineal ascendants, lineal descendants, their spouses, and lastly, any companies any of those individuals owns, controls, manages, or is highly compensated by. So you and spouse, up and down your family tree, essentially lineal ascendant, lineal descendant, their spouses, and companies they own, control, manage, or are highly compensated by. These individuals cannot engage in what are called prohibited transactions, which means they cannot buy, sell, trade, loan, extend a service, or receive a direct or indirect benefit from the IRA. Simply put, I can't buy a property with my IRA and make it my homestead. I can't buy a property in my IRA and have a disqualified person living in it or paying me rental income. We get this a lot in Houston because we're close to many of the major universities in Texas, and they'll say, hey, I want to buy a property with my IRA up in Austin. My son's going to University of Texas and he doesn't want to live in the dorm. So I'm gonna buy a house in my IRA and he's going to live in it. Well, you can't do that because he's disqualified from the IRA. Well, he's going to have roommates and they're actually going to be the ones making the payments. Still can't do that because he's receiving a direct personal benefit from the IRA, no matter if he's paying for it or not. So you can't sell a property to your IRA. You can't trade services. You can't loan or extend services. So get a hold of me. I'll leave my information in the chat at the conclusion of this, and we can discuss this further about the specific people and transaction restrictions. We also have free analysis on this on our website, which I'll also share a link to our free education, whether you're a Quest client or a non-client. Investment restrictions, this is very easy. You can't buy life insurance contracts with your IRA. You also can't invest in what are considered collectibles. They can be artworks, metals, gems, alcoholic beverages. So if you want to buy that vintage collection of wine in your IRA, you better not. You probably should just buy it with your own money and have fun, drink it, have a good time. So these are things that don't have a real value. It's more sentimental in nature, baseball cards, things like that. They're sentimental. They don't have that hard appraised value the way tangible assets do. Well, if I can't invest in that, what can I invest in with my IRA? Literally anything you think of, you can take title to. And at Quest, we're real estate focused. Our company was created by real estate investors for real estate investors. We look at real estate, single family, foreclosures, commercial property, condos, options, land. Land is a big one that we're seeing a lot lately, whether it's unimproved or if it's coming ready, shovel ready, doesn't matter. Tax liens, private entities, LLCs, limited partnerships, JV deals, trusts. Promissory notes are by far the most popular strategy at Quest, whether it's secured or unsecured, mortgages, convertible notes, shared appreciation, net profit notes. Our clients tend to be more passive in nature, and you have to be, given what IRAs are and the restrictions that you have with them. Many of our clients like to loan money to borrowers from their IRA, where their IRA becomes the bank. You and your borrower set your terms, and just like the bank, if your borrower doesn't pay you, you can foreclose on the asset. So we'll look at a case study here, and this is kind of twofold. So we're talking about fix and flips, number one, but we're also talking about the value of partnering and using other people's money, leveraging other people's money to do your own deal. But also it's with after-tax dollars. So this is a partner scenario dealing with Roth IRAs and education savings account. Excuse me for a minute. Okay. So this is a real case study that we saw with Quest. We have Robert and his wife, Linda. They both have IRAs at Quest Trust. They also have a Coverdell education savings account set up for their 9-year-old son. So even though we have husband, wife, son, hey, Kurt, you just told me these are disqualified persons. You can still partner with disqualified persons. Partnering is not prohibited. So I want to make that very clear. So if you have a well-funded IRA and maybe your son or daughter does not, this is a great way for them not only to learn about real estate, but also a way to help start growing their wealth as well by partnering. Let that small IRA partner with the bigger ones. So as we look at the analysis of this, they're looking to do a deal with their IRAs. And there's a property that's been on the market in their neighborhood for a few months. So we already know where it is. Location for them is everything. It's in their neighborhood. So they know the demographics. We can assume they've done their due diligence on this because, again, it's in their neighborhood and they think it's going to be a good investment to buy and flip the house. So due diligence is key, guys. When you do an investment with Quest Trust Company, remember, if we can't give you tax, legal, investment advice, I can't tell you if it's a home run deal or if it's the worst deal I've ever seen. I'm trusting that you've done due diligence on it. And when you sign specific documentation, that gives Quest the legal authority, the legal authorization to fund your investment at that point in time. So make sure you do your due diligence. So we look at the purchase price, it's 100 grand. They estimate 30,000 repairs. So all in total cost $130,000. Now here's the breakdown. And we see the percentages of ownership, and this is key. Robert's Roth is $78,000, 60% ownership. Linda, his wife, 35% with a $45,500 Roth. And lastly, their son's Coverdell ESA gets 5% ownership with a $6,500 investment. This is critical because not only is this the way that profit gets split in a partnered scenario, again, whether this is with IRAs or your IRA and a physical person, this is also the way that expenses have to be paid. It's a parallel transaction. If I get 60% of the profit, I'm responsible to pay 60% of those expenses, whether that's HOA fees, property management fees, landscaping. If I have to hire a contractor to come in and fix the property, 60% of those expenses have to be paid for from me, 35% from her, 5%. So whether it's 2 partners, 10 partners, whatever the splits are, it has to stay that way for profit and expenses. They make the offer to purchase the house and their IRAs. And here's the vesting. Again, the IRA names where we show that undivided interest, 60, 35, 5. This is critical. This is the way it's titled. So we know that these are the 3 owners of this property. And when it comes back to Quest Trust, we know this is how the cash is going to be split when it arrives back into their IRA accounts. So they fixed and flipped the house. 4 months later, sold it for almost $190,000. The net proceeds after closing costs, $180,000. For a tax-free gain of $50,000 in 4 months. That's a pretty good deal. And it gets even better when you look at these breakdowns. That Roth had $30,000 of tax-free growth. His wife's Roth, $17,500 in tax-free growth. The son, a Coverdell education savings account, you can only put $2,000 a year into it. So it's a small amount that you can put in. But when you partner and you get creative with your structuring, one deal essentially doubles that contribution limit for the year. So we don't outright see ESAs purchasing property. These are people who are more sophisticated in structure, that they get this, just that piece of ownership where it has some earnings coming back. Because if all you're doing is making contributions, we know what the cost of higher education is. You might be able to buy books with $2,000 worth of contributions over 18 years. So partner this account with others and get some earnings, and you'll see the benefit of it down the road. Not only for your child, but for you, it's less money you have to pay for your kid to go to college. Just again, things to think about with money and how we look at it. So the steps to purchase an asset with an IRA at Quest: number 1, you open the account, takes 24 to 48 hours. Number 2, we fund the account. Are we transferring money? Are we rolling money over from a 401k? Are you converting from traditional to Roth? Are you making a contribution? Locate the investment. Again, due diligence. complete our specific direction of investment forms with our transactions department who work with you on the investment documents, and ultimately fund the investment on behalf of the IRA. So we make things very, very easy for you, in our standard processing times 24 to 48 hours across the board. We give away free education. So guys, we don't have offerings. I don't have investments to sell you. So our clients and non-clients, we have an obligation to make sure that you have as much education as possible, and it's free, whether you're a Quest client or not. Every Tuesday, Thursday at noon, we do weekly webinars. Every Saturday at noon is self-directed Saturday. These are done virtually, by the way. The first and fourth Tuesday and fourth Wednesday at 6:30 Central Time, we do a presentation every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, where we bring in speakers from around the United States, educated on their area of expertise. So now you have an idea, not only of, I have an IRA, what do I want to invest in, but now you actually have tangible ideas and things that you can go vet and potentially invest the IRA in. And lastly, guys, we do a virtual networking happy hour every first and third Wednesday at 6:30. We get about 60 to 80 investors from around the United States. They're looking for property. They're looking for partners. Some of them are raising money, but they're also looking to borrow money or lend money. So if money is an issue, deals are an issue, this can be a great place where you can continue to network and find what you're looking for. I'll leave you with this, guys. And I'm sure we're all aware of this, but there are some new proposed bills in the spending bill, the legislation that's coming out. So I want to make you aware of some key components of what is involved in this. This is proposed legislation, has not been passed, but write these numbers down and do some research on them, because it affects everybody. Whether you have this $10 million IRA or not, 138301, 138302. This would be required minimum distributions to any account, Roth IRA included, if the total account value of your IRA and your 401k, your total retirement account, exceeds 10 million, you got to start taking distributions. It's the exact opposite of what the Roth IRA was intended for. This is where it starts to hit home, guys. 138311, what's called the backdoor Roth conversion. You know, if you're a high income earner and you've been told you can't have a Roth IRA, number one, that's a lie. You can, you just have to do it through a method called the backdoor Roth, making a non-deductible contribution to a traditional, converting to a Roth. If this legislation passes, that no longer exists for anybody. 138312, your IRA could no longer invest in private placements, syndications. This has huge ripple effects. This isn't just for the IRA account holder. This is the guy who's raising money. And especially if he's starting out, he's usually going to raise from friends and family. So this affects everybody. And if you have to distribute those assets in 2 years, the way this is proposed, now we have an equity crisis with those syndicators, which the ripple effect can be banks are not going to refinance or loan money at the rates that they currently are. So this doesn't just affect IRA holders, this affects everybody. And 138314, guys, LLC, the IRA owned LLC and trust, which is also known as checkbook control, would be gone. So I'll leave this up here for a minute. Really seriously take this seriously, guys. Write these codes down, these tax proposed legislations. And beyond that, take action, make noise, write your congressmen and women, let your voice be heard. And I'll copy and paste this into the chat box. This is a way where you can find your representative all over the United States. You don't have to write your congressman in your area. You can literally write congressmen and women all over the United States. So let me copy and paste this so I can put it in there. So that's all I've got, guys. I know it was 25 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Again, whether you're a Quest client or not, my job as an IRA specialist is to take time and answer any questions you have, whether you're my client or not. I want you to understand IRAs and the benefit and how it can change your life and change your investment strategy. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Does anyone have any questions, Lynn?
I do, and maybe you can give this to Kurt.
Can you hear Lynn okay, guys, on Zoom?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay, here's the question. If you use all of your our Roth IRA money that we've given to you to buy the investment property, and there's $50,000 of rehab, can you use your own money, or can you only use Roth money to do the rehab?
If you're going to use your own money, you have to be a partner in the deal. So since you're a disqualified person to the IRA and your IRA buys that property outright, you could not use your own money to do the expenses. Expenses have to be paid for from the Roth IRA. So A partnering scenario can alleviate that. If I got to buy $100,000 house and I've only got 50, I got to go find a money partner, or maybe take on a non-recourse loan, which is the only type of loan that an IRA can take, is a true non-recourse loan with no personal guarantee from the person. I can't extend my credit or my income to the IRA again because I'm disqualified. So the options would be to find a money partner, whether that's partnering with yourself or another human being or another person's IRA.
Pat Goldstein, she's a realtor with Craw Light. Go ahead, Pat.
That same scenario, could you take your $50,000, put it into the Roth IRA, and then use the Roth IRA to buy the property?
Depends on, number one, how we're funding the account. So I can't take $50,000 that I have sitting in the bank and put it in the Roth IRA because there are contribution limits, $6,000, $7,000 a year, depending on my age. But let's say I had an existing Roth IRA that had 50 grand in it, or had an old 401k that had Roth money in it, and I wanted to roll it over to the Roth. Now that Roth IRA that's funded with 50 grand it can go take direct title to the property. But again, if it doesn't have enough money to buy it outright, my options would be a money partner or a non-recourse loan to come up with the difference.
Real quick, Kurt, you know people who can partner with real estate investors though within Quest, is that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, partnering is one of the best strategies that our clients use, whether they have a small IRA or a big IRA. I mean, the whole idea is if I can leverage other people's money or other people's IRAs to get my deal done, then it's all the better. Now, if I have the money outright to purchase a property, maybe I don't need a partner. But if I'm trying to do something nice for my kids or a friend's child or whatever, I want to give back and help them learn real estate and grow their account faster, then yeah, I'm going to partner with them and get them some earnings as well.
So you can partner with linear family members, but you can't buy a property that that is going to benefit them.
Correct.
Like your son living in the house that they bought in the college town. You can't do that.
Exactly. Yeah. I can partner all day long on deals with them and get percentage of ownership, but the buck stops there. I can't do anything beyond that. I can't loan them money from my IRA. I can't buy a house for them.
Lynn?
Quick question, is there an age limit on the health savings plan?
No, the only requirements for a health savings account is, number one, you have to be on a high deductible health plan that is HSA compatible. You cannot be a dependent on somebody else's tax returns, and you can't be on Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera.
Okay, guys, I just want to tell you that people have paid maybe $2,000 or $3,000 for a seminar to get what you just got at Talk Shop.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.